to Autopedia Live. I'm Chris Douglas, and my guest today is a published author of children's books, humor poetry, novels, and short stories. His latest novella, The True Tales of Rotton Towers. It's a pleasure to have him with us, Lee Benson. Lee, welcome to the program.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
What a pleasure. You were born in Birmingham, UK, home of the Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne, and you could continue from there. You're into music.
Electric Light Orchestra.
Winwood, and Arthur Conan Doyle, he wrote there. Can you take us through your early life?
Well, I was born at an early age. This is a fact. And in fact, it is important in my theory, because at the time of my birth, the doctors turned around to my father and said, "Who do you want to save? Do you want to save your wife, or do you want to save the child?" Shoved me in an incubator for I think about 10 days or something, because they thought, well, it's whatever. But anyway, I just assumed that you're born dead. Every day of your life is going to be something to be rewarded on. So it's like a second chance from birth, because we both survived. Mum, bless her, made it to 84, and I should be 65 next month. 56, I'll turn it round. So my early life was really good. I was the firstborn. Then 3 years later, my sister came along and bossed me around from a very early age. And then my brother came along 3 years later, and we think we had the wrong child there. But anyway, he was certainly the thirdborn. He was very, very different. I went through school, junior school, top of art. Went to a grammar school, although I passed into the art school, and I passed to go to a really high educational school, and I followed my friends, and there are down tools, because art was like treated as a subservient topic. I was top of art, technical drawing, anything artistic, and I had to do maths, physics, and further maths. So I just went on strike for the next 4 years, basically, and bluffed my way through the school. Then just before my exams, I got this thing called glandular fever and dropped 4 stone in a month. And that was entertaining. And then I went back to school, and they said, "Benson, what are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I've come to do my A-levels, but you didn't get your O-levels." I said, "Well, what? So?" And so somehow I managed to bluff my way through and spent another 2 years not doing an awful lot, really, or so I thought. And then I left school, and a mad cousin of mine had got this idea of going on a holiday with a friend's Fiat 500. That's the very little Fiat Cinquecento, the original one. And it had originally come from Egypt. A guy had shipped it into Ireland, got it registered in Ireland. It was a sky blue. We had Kiss stickers on it, because Kiss, the band, had just come over to England. And they were playing at a raceway. It was a stock car racetrack up in the north of Birmingham. And they were brilliant. So this new radio station called BRMB and Kiss stickers covered the car. And I said to them, "We're going away for a couple of weeks holiday." So we got the First World War tent with a few holes in it, I think. My mum gave us enough soup and sausages and in tins that the poor car was like crunching as it went down the road. We had 2 guitars, a rucksack, and an 8-track. This is important because the 8-track had only 2 8-tracks. One was After the Gold Rush. And the other one was a country and western album. I can't think what it was, but it's like, no, I'm afraid. I can do the Grateful Dead, but I can't do what I call really, my grandma's gone off with the goldfish next door, that sort of music. And then instead of going away for a couple of weeks, it was actually 3 years. So that was my university degree. Came back to England just before I was 21. And nobody had changed, but I had. First of all, I'd gone away without any hairs on my chest, and I'd come back 21, just about. And then I thought, this life is cool. I know, I'll go do the Southern Hemisphere, but I tell you what, I'll join British Airways. And I went and did all the exams, passed the whole lot to become, overseas crew. And I thought, this is ridiculous, because basically you're going to be a waiter in the air. So I didn't do that. And I thought, what am I going to do? So a neighbour asked my father if he knew of anybody that was good at decorating, and also if he knew anybody that could sell. So he put me forward. So I went along thinking I was going to do a decorating job in his office, and it had just been decorated in magnolia paint and smelt it. And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I don't like the colour you've done the office here, but I suppose we could always redo it." He said, "It's just been painted." And I said, "Well, why do you want me to come and paint your office?" He said, no, he said, you're coming to sell cash registers. And it was the NCR Corporation, big American company. I said, oh, okay, I'll have a go. So I went out that day and sold 2. And so I ended up working for this chap for 5 years and I really hated every bit of it because I didn't really want to sell. And I never wanted to really work. I don't know what it was. It was this thing in my head that you're a creative person and therefore working is not what we're supposed to do. We work, but it's not the ultimate. Anyway, after 5 years, I was told, here's another territory for you, which meant moving just when everything was going to come back and give me good commissions. I went, no. Tipped my briefcase up, took them all out for lunch, and thought, what the hell am I going to do? And my brother at the time was just starting a band up, and he said, why don't you join the band? And I thought, 6 years younger brother, this is going to be mental. Anyway, so I got my redundancy money and bought a Roland keyboard, a vintage, which I've only sold a couple of months ago to a guy who's like over the moon with it. And he paid £100 more than I paid. So it was very expensive at the time. And then I was in this band for 5-6 years called ESP. My brother left. Sadly, he suffered with manic depression at the time. He left. We picked up the pieces and 4 of us started playing and did quite well. We had a couple of good hits. But it was like sort of living a non-life. It wasn't real. I could never treat it as anything serious. Then along comes a woman, obviously. Then along comes a child. Whoops. And then, you need to get a real job. I'm going, oh. But in the meantime, I was offered to join Jules Holland, who used to be in Squeeze, join his record company. And they even then didn't take it seriously. So then I got a job with a friend who'd opened an art shop in Birmingham. And I was working there, just thinking part-time, thinking what I was going to do. And 14 years later, coming out as a sales director of a job which I didn't want, again, I thought I'm going to go to Devon and be an artist and paint. And next opportunity, I opened up a gallery in Birmingham, a very contemporary gallery called Number 9 The Gallery, because it was in Number 9 Brindley Place. It took like 6 months to come up with the name of a band. It took like 23 milliseconds to see Number 9. Oh, that's the name of the gallery, Number 9 The Gallery. And spell it properly because I'm dyslexic, Numberb. I had to do it once. And I never had run my own business before. And it worked for 14 years. It was amazing. It had white walls. It had beautiful tiled flooring. It had rock stage lighting, tri-lighting, big cans, small cans. And I had concerts in there, poetry readings. It was a lifestyle. I mean, the accountant kept on getting very upset with the amount of wine that was consumed, but I said it oiled the industry. And that went for 14 years. And then the people who bought out the buildings wanted to double my rent. And I just looked at the logistics of having an art gallery and the way the market was changing. And I just thought, I can't afford that. I mean, I was having to take £250,000 to break even. Now, that's a lot of money in a product that people don't have to buy. And so on my birthday, I gave them the keys back and I said, bye. And then went into working in the charity sector and helping kids that were told they were useless and said, look, you can do it. I've only got a Blue Peter badge to my name, which is really important in England. And they all thought you were going to be serious and you were obviously a teacher and you were this. No, I left the country and I did all these mad things and you can survive. Just believe in yourself. It took me to nearly 60 to believe in myself, but there's no reason in telling kids that, you can do it. And, a lot of them have gone on to do it. So that's part one. How's that? Is that quick enough?
When did you get into writing?
I actually used to write in junior school. I used to write really good creative stuff, but anything that was historic or factual or essays used to bore the pants off me. So I used to get it done in a page. A little bit too short for most teachers' writings. And again, I used to write, when I got this glandular fever, I was in bed and I began to write poetry, my own thoughts. Some were quite random. Some were very influenced by Spike Milligan, who was the Goons, if you've heard of the Goons, and very Milligan-esque sort of naive humor, but there was undertones of seriousness in it. I didn't do anything about real writing till I was in the band. because when we came up, we didn't want to be a covers band. We wanted to play our own stuff. And it was then someone said in my head, well, you've written some poetry, you know, some of this personal stuff. Let's see what it works with tunes. 3 or 4 of those were like, oh, everyone thinks they could understand what you've written. They have no idea. They go, oh, I really relate to that, man. And you go, you have no idea what I wrote about. But it didn't matter, because once it went out there, it wasn't yours anymore. It belonged to other people to interpret what they wanted to interpret in the song and within the lyrics. So then coming to opening my gallery, I met a chap who was doing something with the big exhibition centre. And I was telling about, I had an idea of a children's book, which went back to when I was 18, about me on an adventure. And it's about an egg. And he goes, an egg? And I said, well, yeah, it's me. I sort of left home at 18, came back at 21, but I've written it as an egg story. You know, does he break? Does he break? It's my life. Did you break? No, didn't break. Went on to the next bit. He said, well, let me have a look at it. And he had the early days of the iris printers, which were just amazing. They were the most expensive printers out, 12 color inks, none of this modern stuff. And he did, for his publishing company at the show, a version of Henry Egg, which it must have cost thousands. It cost over 10,000 at the time to print, and it was done as an edition of 1,000. And me being sort of big-headed about it all, I was at a breakfast meeting, as you do to promote yourself, and this poor woman lost both her daughters from a disease. And I said, however I can help you, you can have all the profits. I've got 2 very healthy children. So Henry Egg became sort of an ambassador to help raise money, which is really good. And that's how I got into children's stories. But my poetry then became songs. My songs then, a few years ago, there was a book called Failing to Be Serious, which is really a very serious title about me. I fail to be serious. I'm serious all the time, except nobody knows it. And so the collection of my earlier poems and new stuff and my mad ramblings became a book. And then suddenly it just started, opened up a gate, and I had the second book, which was Meandering with Intent, getting my own titles. And they've just started to flow. I'm halfway through book 7. But amongst it all, then the publisher said to me, why don't you write a book about your gallery life? And I went, nobody would believe it if I wrote the real story. Because I've been privileged to get into some wonderful places and meet some fantastic people. Same as in the art, when I was in the music business, I met some great people, some famous musicians, being on stage with lots of this and that, being behind the scenes, watching fights with John Lord, picked him off stage once, remember, from Deep Purple. And it was like, okay, I'll write this story. And then amongst it all, tragically, my brother died on me. So he died just before my 60th birthday. And I was halfway through this book. So it gave me more determined reason to focus and finish it. I mean, it's different if you lose a parent, but you lose a sibling, and the youngest. It was just like, oh. So the book kept me totally focused, and that got published. And then the publisher said, you know, you should do a second book.
What was the name of that book?
So the first book was called So You Want to Own an Art Gallery,
okay,
because I'd just come out of the art world. Yeah. But it really wasn't about owning an art gallery. It was an observation on studying people, on studying the staff, on studying the artists, on studying customers. And it's not, as it says in the book, it's not an instruction manual. So I then wrote the second book, which was Where's Your Gallery Now? It got, because the gallery got closed down. And writing that book, sadly, a year later, my mum died. So I had to finish that book. So I thought to myself, I'm going to do book 3, and everyone better stay alive for this one. And book 3, very briefly, but it's called Now You're the Artist, Deal With It. And if you can see, it's a woman standing on the toilet seat. So the publisher said, look, what can you do with this? So I wrote a complete chapter about a life model that came along into the studio, and they had this gerbil who she thought was a rat, and she went into the loo, it's a rat, just don't shout, you know, you'll distress my pet. And that became the third book, which was, you've gone from being a businessman, owning a gallery, having to deal with people, all the bills, all the respect, everything you had to do. Golden rule, do not poke the payroll, no good. Then as an artist, you can get away with murder. So, and everyone says, it is real, isn't it? I go, no, it's a story. But there is hidden truths in that one. And then I had enough of being funny, and I thought, this story, The True Tales of Rotton Towers, I've got to write it. Rotton Towers is because the place was in Rotton Park Road, not Rotton, Rotton, which was an old park going back to the 14th century, whatever it was. And these old buildings had been left abandoned, and then some developers bought it and then just did it up. But things started to happen. Strange things started to happen in that building. And when you actually got to speak to the builders and said, oh yeah, we had an RSJ collapse and it was not possible to collapse electric. You have those blue boxes and they kept popping apart and things kept going. And I went, sounds like poltergeist activity to me. And of course, some of them go, no, I don't believe in that. Smoke a cigarette. No, don't have that. And I'm going, but it makes sense. Why don't you get this building cleansed? And they think you're potty. They just think you're bonkers. So when we moved in, and I thought after 2 days, there's something not right. I could sense the vibe of the place wasn't right. I called a guy who was a sort of a modern day soothsayer, and he came with his little wife and his crystals, and he went around the place and said, it's all calm and all that sort of stuff. And I went, yeah, whatever. And 2 days later, that's when all hell hit the place. And then everything started to happen, and everything in that book, I suppose I could have wrote it a lot longer and bigger, but I just had to get it down. I could rewrite it bigger, but that's what I saw. That's what happened. Voila. Amen. Hallelujah.
What a story. What a story that is. Are you a spiritual or religious? Or both?
Well, to me, spirituality and religion don't go hand in hand. They're two separate things. I'm very spiritual as a person, and I'm religious in my belief. I think if you believe in something, that's good. If you don't have a belief, then you haven't got a religion, because if you don't want to believe in anything, then reality is just quite boring. Belief means that you sometimes have to believe in something which isn't real, or acceptance. Spirituality is something which not only comes from outside, but also within. Feelings, sensations, some people who see things, some people who don't, smelling, talking, whatever, seeing people who aren't there in front of you. It could be termed as insanity, or it's like, what was that? Who was that? Why is there somebody talking to me? What do you want? Why do some of us remember? And we all, just before we're born, have this incredible sense. It's my theory. And we lose it as we get up to 5 or 6. All the senses that we have get honed down. With education, it gets honed down. When you get to senior school, it's bolted down on you, so you're supposed to follow paths. Creativity defies all that, and it stays with you. Like you say to most people, what's your first childhood memory? And most aren't going to remember sort of 4 or 5, maybe some 6. They don't remember much. And I said to my mum, do you remember that time like that rat came at the garden? You were in a pram. And I wrote it in one of my poems, The Rat. And to this very day, it's so visual. I saw it. I spoke to that creature was there, and everybody ran. And it was a water vole or something like that. And I was in the pram. So I was no more than 7 months old, sitting up in the pram. Yeah, that's a memory. And that is, I think that's spiritual. And it's to find it. I mean, there's quasi-spiritual people, and there's, we believe in the spirits, we do all this, and if you buy these things, or if you do a Reiki course, you're a Reiki master. It's either within you or it's not within you.
Yeah, I was trying to separate it actually from organized religion. Some people just do not take that anymore. With organized religion, they're not part of anything, but they are interiorized, and they feel the energy, and they communicate with that energy. So this is the way that most. But
that's not religion. That's spirituality. That is definitely in the spiritual world.
Right.
I mean, I have healing hands, so I do massage, and I'm qualified, but I do things which you can't be taught, and it's just like, how does that happen? I actually worked on a minister once, and I said, well, why does this happen? He says, count it as a blessing. I don't know. I don't want to know. All I know is it's worked, and it's a blessing. And there's some of you allowed to have these gifts and treat it as a gift from God or wherever. That was it. Subject ended. I was like, okay.
Energy and vibration.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And it's, you know, we talk about sixth sense.
Right.
Sixth sense is the energy and the vibration. How come you can talk to somebody first time, face to face, eye to eye, within a tenth of a second?
Unfortunately, there are 6 in humans. Cats have much more than that.
Yeah, that's why I don't like cats. And they make good shoe cleaners. No,
I got 4 cats. Yeah.
They always rub up against my. I'm 6'3", and they rub against my legs. Like, oh! I respect them when they get to pumas and tigers and lions. It's like, yep, those little domestic doggies. I think Monty Python said, "Did your cat fly?" Yeah, by itself. No, I'll fling it.
Yeah, they're royal. They are royal.
Yeah.
What inspires you mostly?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. What inspires me to live?
To write, to create.
To write. Yeah,
to create art, art in any manifestation. Music,
I think,
painting, writing.
I link painting, playing piano, and writing all within the same. It's just another way of expressing. Sometimes I can write a visual piece. Sometimes I can paint a written piece. Sometimes I can close my eyes at the piano and imagine a scenario and play to it. The 3 senses sort of mix and become like one. And it's just, okay, well, I'll go that to the left channel. Say we're quadraphonic. So the left channel is going to be writing. And I write in the visual way. And unlike some people that can get up every day and write 9 to 5, my brain's going like 9 to 5, 24 hours a day. And sometimes I can write at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I use the notes on my iPhone to write really quickly. Whereas if I'm typing on the computer and writing, it's much more slower, it's more deliberate, it's more controlled. And then if I'm painting, and I like to paint outside in England, you know, we're noted for our weather. That's why we do watercolors, because it rains all the time. To paint outside, you've got to be inspired. There's no point going, I'm going to paint a flower, because, you know, still lifes is great. Leave it to the Dutch masters. I've got to see something. Ultimately, I love to see a bit of water, because when I'm beside water, I feel I'm alive again. It cleanses you. It makes you feel good. And I'm going out tomorrow with a couple of 70-year-old gents, and we're going to paint in a very nice park tomorrow. A couple of weeks ago, we sat by a canal and did some pictures. And people come by and they go, "What you doing?" I go, "Shark fishing," you know. "What do you think I'm doing? I got all these watercolors everywhere. I got a picture in front of me. I'm painting a watercolor. Oh, can we have a look? Oh, that's quite good. That. Oh, that's a load of rubbish, whatever." And then when it comes to music, if you're composing, there's 2 ways of composing: in your head, with your eyes closed, and in your head through the piece of paper and your hand, and engaging other elements of your life to get it down on paper. So that, to me, they're all interlinked.
Do you write your lyrics while you are playing the piano, or
no?
Composing
lyrics
music?
Tend to come to me when I'm walking. I hear a rhythm in my head. I used to have, remember the Sony Walkmans?
Oh, so first you have the lyrics, and then you could go and write the piece, or that they're not related, or maybe you put them.
It comes in different ways. Sometimes some of the lyrics would come by walking, and you'd sort of walk, and you'd hear your foot, and then you'd breathe a beat, and it's like,
right.
And I'm talking about doing this, and you don't think the middle eight, and I come back and try to make sense of this. Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I think it's that chord. And then I'll go to the piano, listen to this a few times, and start playing around and sort of a bit like painting, changing backgrounds, changing the depth, the preliminary work, and then the sketch, the final, the final touching details is, oh, that's a good chord. All we need is 6th here. And that's how I've composed. And the song that went to #1 that we had was like a 2-minute throwaway. I loved the lyrics at the time. I just wrote them as a protest. No. Tell me what you want to say. I'll listen to you anyway. Which was about a girlfriend who just used to drive me mad. And there's a leave, and it's like, stop like a mosquito. Just tell me what you want, and I'm going to listen to you. Simple. And that was the chorus. Tell me what you want to say. I'll listen to you anyway. You know, it's like, oh, okay. As opposed to, when people say, oh, write a song for me, write a song about me. So my opening lyric was, so you say that you want a song all about you. And the next line was, well, who the hell do you think you are?
Yeah, so it's a combination actually of everything that vibrates in synchronicity with
Totally.
Right.
Yeah, it comes from within, and sometimes you don't know why you're writing. You lose yourself.
It could be anything that strikes your sensitive parts. I mean,
with writing,
anything.
When I was writing
anything, right?
Yeah, but when I was writing the novels, the triptych, which became called No Naked Walls, no wall should have empty walls, so that's why No Naked Walls sounded quite good. I dove into the story, so I became the story again, and I wrote from within. I couldn't write it, then he did this, then he did that, and then this happened, and that happened. I sort of closed my eyes, imagine this scenario. Next minute, I'm in that scenario, and I'm writing from within, because I wrote it in first person, which made it more alive rather than third person. And at first, it was a bit difficult because I'd never written first person story, but then it just sort of began to flow, and then it just took an idea of reality. I think most of your ideas come from reality. I mean, I can't write sci-fi. I'm writing a sci-fi story, but it's still based in a real event somehow along the line. Yeah. So everything I think that we write is you've either seen, you've heard, you've observed. If you don't walk around with your eyes open, you can't really be creative because there's so much to see. A tree is different every single hour of the day. Sometimes the wind will just rustle and you'll see the leaf and you'll go, oh, where's my camera? Oh, and then you can hear it. Oh, listen to that. Oh, the tree rustled, blah, 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 as the wind went down and the man went down the road. Well, if your eyes closed and your mind's closed and your heart's closed, how the hell can you be creative? So I wrote from within because there I was in the most creative part. I was acting out the scene and somehow my hands were typing away, writing away. And I'd come out maybe 2 hours or 3 hours later. You lose track of time, Chris. And it's like, oh, did I write that? So that's how my creative writing goes.
You feel easier with poetry or prose or both? Maybe. What?
It's a poetic. Sometimes a piece of poem or piece of prose is basically a long book reduced down to 6 or 7 lines. Right, I did. Sometimes you go round and round and round and round and round and round, and sometimes you don't. And that says it all. That's what I call a poem.
Did you ever have a mentor?
No.
No, nothing.
The only mentor I had was my mother, who taught me how to do a hill start once when I was 17. Put your foot down, she said. Go. That was my hill start. No. If I want to be a bit more spooky, it's like to say, well, I've been here before. I was once regressed. I got attacked in the gallery. A guy tried to kill me, knife in the sternum and missed, and stole a beautiful bronze. And I sort of chased him, grabbed on the back of the car, ridiculous, got dragged up the main street and fell off. Then you think, oh, you idiot. So I went to see somebody after because it really upset my psyche, and he hypnotized me. And it was just like, whoosh, release. People spend years trying to transform and meditate with him, and I went flying. I went through the sky, I went through the sea, through mountains, came back. He said, I've been trying to get you back for 25 minutes. And I went, I wasn't ready. He said, can I regress you? I said, yeah, sure. And we went back to, I remember it even like talking to you now. There's this scene where there's like a battle going on. You can smell the mud. And I turned around to whoever it was beside me and said, they don't learn, do they? This killing is not the answer to anything. And that, I reckon, was something like 9th, 10th century, something like that. I don't know. I went back into Venetian times, I think 16th century. I went back pre-First World War. He wrote it all down. He says, oh, you were really, do you want to come again? I said, no, I think I'm all right now, thank you. And then you think, are you mentored, or are there forces around you that sort of help you without you realizing, guide your way through life? In the real terms, I've never done writing courses. I think I have my own style. So I don't want to be influenced by, you must do this, therefore you must do that. I don't mind criticism. It hurts, but it's worthy. And I like performing what I've written because you put the essence of your life into the story. And there's my biggest B in the world. If anybody writes and spends 2 years writing a book, for God's sakes, learn how to recite it out loud. Because if you don't, all that work is pointless. If you're boring as a reader, don't read your book out loud.
Wow.
Sorry, didn't mean to shut you up.
No, it's a lot to think about this. And it takes you into it, actually. It took me 10 years to write a book. It took me 10 years. 10 years.
Well, that's book two.
And a lot of references. Excuse me?
What about book two? When's that coming out?
It's out already.
Good.
Yes,
and book three?
It's out already, and I can send it to you.
It gets easier, though, doesn't it? Do you think it gets easier or harder when you've already got the book out?
After the first book, it's easy. Much, much more easier. Now I learn to do the writing and not the editing.
That's really important. That is so important. Write. Don't worry about editing. Just
fluently,
write.
Yeah. And let the editing go for somebody else.
Well, if you edit your first chapter and keep editing and editing, you write the soul out of the story, and then you've got nothing left that's anywhere near. If you're trying to be true to writing, leave an editor to edit if you want, or go through. I mean, if I have to edit something or read through it, I enlarge the font so big, like 280%, and I will go through every word looking at it, because if I read it back the way my mind works, I'm going, well, that doesn't look right. The way I will edit is I will record myself reading a page or a chapter, listen to it. If it sounds good, I think it's right. If there's something jarring, then you go, okay, and I'll go back to that bit. And I think, if I say it that way around and I'll record it, then say, yeah, that's better. Then I'll go and put that in. And then ultimately I said to my wife, I'll stop. I said, listen to this. I've written this bit. Tell me what you think. And she was a very good critique. And then you give it to an editor, because you can drive yourself bonkers.
Oh, no matter how long and how many times you go back and edit it, you'll always find something that is not right.
Yeah. When my second children's book came out, and we had European funding for it, and I had 2 teachers, primary teachers, and I had the Chamber of Commerce edited, went through it all, and when it was printed, I opened it, and the first thing I saw was made in Birmingham, Birminham. I went, this must be the Devon version, because they missed the G out. It's so obvious. It's like, Birmingham, as they talk in Devon like that, my dear. This is the Devon edition. Next time we'll have it with the G in it. It'll be Birmingham. And it was like, how could you all miss that?
What made you write children's books?
I had very entertaining children, and I used to get bored reading the same story, and I'd come back from work late, and if they were asleep, or they'd hear, Dad reads a story, and I just began making up things, changing me as the real person into a pretend character. And the egg was I say, it started off, the egg, it took a Dutch interviewer to tell me that he realized that the egg stories were me. I was the egg. I am the Eggman. Cuckoo. And it was like, okay, well, suddenly you realize, even though you're writing a children's book, you're writing your own life in the character. So the unbreakable egg was a kid who left home at 18 and came back at just 21 and hadn't broken. And, has he died? No. Did he survive? Yeah, maybe. What happens next? And then the opera story, Shelly Egg, who meets her great hero, the great Ombletto at the Scala. At 18, I saw Madame Butterfly. But when I wrote the second book, I learned to sing after I left the rock band. So it just seemed a good idea for Shelly Egg to be me, an egg that wanted to sing. Then it gets a bit weird, because the alien egg one goes and has a whole adventure around the universe. And I thought, okay, that was me being regressed, which was Henry II going back in time, meeting his wife, Eleanor of Egwatine. And then, of course, you get the present and the past. And how can that happen? Well, in a children's world, you can do anything you like, because they accept the fact that an egg, which has no arms and legs, can move. An adult goes, how does it move? You go, why doesn't it have legs? I said, well, if it had legs, it would be a chicken. And they go, okay. So it became fun. And also, it was a safety barrier for me. If I'm writing children's stories, then I don't have to be taken so serious in what I'm doing. And now I've written the seven egg stories, 12 egg stories really. But this last lockdown, I have put together 3 complete different children's books with no eggs in them whatsoever. And one was based on a story which my 31-year-old daughter reminded me. When I picked them all up from school, there was these 5 little girls in the back of the car, junior school this is, and they're having a farting competition. It's like, girls fart? Are you kidding me? Nobody told me this. It's like, and they're killing themselves with laughter, and they're trumping away, and they're lifting a leg, and and that night I came up with this story of Wilhelmina and her wind. They love to fart. We don't mention the fart word in the children's story, and that's sort of just been published for the new illustrator. Look, that's this one here, Wilhelmina and her wind. And you'd sort of tell us more, and kids would tell you if you got it wrong. So woe betide if you told the story different the next night. So that's taken. Florence is 31, so she was 7. So 7 off 31 is how many years it's taken for this book to come out, which I actually wrote this year. And she says, Dad, it's exactly how I remember. Yes, I got it right.
Well, I'm glad you put it in the book and not into music.
Yes.
I don't even know where to go from here. You're just a pack of surprises.
Oh, okay. I'm treated as a 24/7 lifestyle.
What's the most important thing in life for you? If you didn't write, or if you didn't have the talent for, and by the way, do you have a hidden talent that nobody knows about?
Maybe. The most important thing is to be well enough to help everybody else. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got 2 beautiful children. I consider myself a guardian of all those, and I would never want to be a burden on anybody. But waking up every day, when you put a child on the planet, there's no contract, and you will forever, even though you don't mean it wrongly, you will forever worry about them. When you have a wife, if anybody goes out, you've got to be there. You've got to be a full working 24/7 man who has responsibilities. And so the greatest thing, I think, is waking up every single day and then getting away with as much as you possibly can in the creative world. And maybe meeting somebody who will sort of say, hey, you're doing a really good job. Here's a lot of money to help you on your way. But you don't really write. I certainly don't write about making money. That's for certain. There may be methods, or, if you follow a proven path, that's then totally commercial. And the reality is my art gallery was never a commercial art gallery. It sold unusual stuff. And I think I write in a way which doesn't fit a general genre, and I don't see why I should change it. Oh yeah, but if you write like this, you'll earn thousands of dollars. Yeah, but I'm not going to write like that. You can write like that, and I'll be remembered 200 years on as that weird bloke, whatever, but I think my books will still be out there.
Any regrets?
Oh no, I call them learning curves. Yes, I regret not believing in myself from a younger age. It's took me a long, long time to get to like me as a person, as opposed to, I think I was born overweight. It's one of those things. I was tall. I always used to think that maybe people didn't like me, so you made yourself funnier. And I think one of the most interesting conversations I had was my form teacher 30 years after we left the school. And he said, oh, Benson, you were so entertaining in school. You were great. And I'm going, but sir, he was only about 5 years older than me at the time. Now there's no difference between somebody who's like 40 and 45. But when you were young and you were like 10 and they're 15, they're 20, they are generations apart. And I said, I hated school. I don't remember a lot of school. I shut it out of my mind. Well, you could have done this, you could have done that. I went, yeah, I could have, but I didn't. So I've got to where I am now. And the great reward about that is to be able to tell the youth today who have made so despondent, if you don't get your exams, if you don't do this, well, hang on a minute. I haven't, and I'm still here. And I'm enjoying life now. And yeah, there's certain things you have to do, but don't ever give up on yourself. And if you've got something creative, pursue it, enjoy it. if that's what you want to do. The world needs creative people. The programs and everything in the world and everything that's done, as we're told, 9 to 5, still needs a creative mind to originally get that idea going first before it gets taken over, and then the computer will take over, and then you all have to follow this path. If you destroy creativity, there is nothing left in the world.
Do you always pursue your dreams, or anything you skip?
I'm getting there now. I would like to have done it maybe a lot longer ago, but I didn't give up. I think that's the important thing. I haven't given up.
What keeps you up at night, if any?
What keeps me up at night?
Do you write your daytime or during?
Both. Sometimes I'll wake up and write. It's just ridiculous, you know. Suddenly it's like, if poetry comes into your head, a piece of poetry, it's there, and you have to write it immediately. You can't go, what was that about? Oh, it's like one of the best songs you've ever not written. And it's like, I forgot to write it down, and it's gone. It's gone in a minute. It's like the fast train. But at the same time, we've been watching the US Open tennis, which was fantastic.
One word can make a difference, absolutely.
One word, one pronunciation, 1 second,
right. Yeah.
come or gone, and that's it. And sometimes you can't get it right. If I write something and I've tried to labor over it, it's a bit like editing. If I try to think, that's, you're trying to find a word, that doesn't work, because it means my style hasn't flowed. So stop it, stick it into the box where you might come back 10 years later or whatever, which is what I've done with a couple of pieces, which I'd never finished. And I looked at it from a different light, and I thought, this is quite good. And I rewrote it in a different tense, and it just flowed. It just completely flowed. And that comes from experience of writing, I think.
Do you write every day?
I'd like to, but the garden and lockdown took over this last year. And let me tell you, a garden's like having twins full time. You have not got a day off. We went on holiday, thought, the plants need feeding. We've got to water this, we've got to do that. It's like, why are we bothering going away? Oh, my word. My frustration is I'm consciously aware that there are actually 3 serious stories I'm writing, and I just want to lock myself away and write them, and I can do it, and it's discipline. I think it's like painting. If you sketch every day for 5 minutes, it can only do you good. If you write every day, it can only do you good. But for people who write 10,000 words and then get rid of 9,000 words, I think there's other better things to do in the day.
Your biggest mistake?
What's the biggest mistake? Well, it's like I say, you can't change the past. I got a pass to go into the art school, and I didn't. I went to the grammar school and followed my mates because my friends went. And if I had the spirit of my convictions at the time, I think everything I'm doing now would have come out in a different way a lot earlier. I don't think I believed in the fact that I was any good, really. It was just fun, even in the band in the 80s. Well, it was fun. It was a hedonistic lifestyle. It was fun. We didn't treat it seriously enough, which is a shame, because if you look at people like the Stones, they were serious from day one. They might have given this illusion of being rebels, but they were business right from day one, and they proved to be correct. You've got to have a real business. It's not a game. Although life can be a game with a few serious bits thrown in.
Your most satisfying moment?
I could say talking to you at this very moment in time, which is great fun, actually. I was quite nervous, but it's really enjoyable. I'm really enjoying this.
Thank you.
It's really good. Yeah, I feel.
What a nice! I didn't expect that.
Okay.
Wow.
The dollar's in the post. I know.
Yeah. There's so many things that come to my mind right now. The time is flying by. I just wanted to go back to poetry.
Okay.
Because it's unique.
I will go get you a poetry book.
Lovely.
Right beside me, luckily. There's the piano. Right. Now the front cover of this book is called Close But Not Close Enough. This was actually in the telephone box in the Cavern where the Beatles played in Liverpool.
Wow.
All the covers have stories to them. So, okay, this is one called Focus. I just opened it, so it's called Focus. Are you listening to me well? Put everything on hold and sit right down. Close your eyes and think. Think of colour. Think of trees. Think of meadows filled with birds and field, mice, ears of corn blowing in a gentle breeze. Sun rays peeking through clouds, rolling by, and caressing the soul, warming the earth to make life's hidden start to grow. Stop. Listen to what's around. Feel the sense of purpose in walking straight and standing proud. March with arms akimbo and feet keeping step, and one by one they walk by. Dreams and thoughts from yesterday. Where have they gone? No one really knows. So focus on your memory banks. Try to bring them back. That's that. Gosh. And you know, I don't remember writing that, but I did write it. It's a funny one. Yeah, right, one little one. Which is when I met my grand niece for the first time. It's like when you hold a baby in your hand and you realise as a man how big your hands are when they're small.
Yeah, yes.
and I forget. So I went to see my niece, and she had a baby called Sophia. And it's called How Lucky. How large is a 9-day-old baby in the world? How big is a 6'3" man in her eyes? And how small is her foot next to his hand? How small are we in this universe of ours? And how big and proud do we feel in the circle of our families? And how lucky are we to share the size of another generation in our lives? So it's sort of prose, I don't know, but it comes out as a thought, really. So some of my poems are definitely thoughts, but they're complete thoughts, and I write them. I don't go back and edit and think, I need that word to go with that. We do exercise, sometimes we do like 100-word drabble, and you have to say something in 100 words, or to upset a group that we're invited to once, they like to talk in sonnets. They write sonnets, which is 13 or 14 verses, and the first and the second. So I wrote a 17-verse sonnet, which really annoyed them all, because you can't have a 17-verse sonnet. And then Shakespeare wrote it, it was soddeth off.
Yeah, well, poetry is written by your inner alter ego.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so fluent
and this is English. This is because English people talk about the weather. I think you Americans always think you guys are always talking about the weather. Well, we have lots of it, that's why. So this is called Weather. We always talk about the weather, and it always breaks the ice. Sunshine rays of happiness with raindrops falling on your head. Don't let the sun go down on me, and rainy days and Sundays always get you down. And if fog on the Tyne's all mine, then summer loving will suit me just fine. If you open the door, bring in the clouds, then find it raining all over the world by playing misty and walking on sunshine and raining men, hallelujah. Talk about something else. Come on, one and all. The weather says it's really going to be a perfect, lovely day. All famous lines from other people's songs, put it together, and it became a poem. There you go. Is that enough for you?
Beautiful, beautiful.
I really enjoy my poetry, and people go, well, poetry isn't really writing, but it's its own style, it's its own genre. And for people who say that, they can't write it. Just because you can make words rhyme doesn't mean to say it's poetry or prose.
No, not everybody is a poet.
You've got to have something inside, poetry. And so there's hidden meanings. There's much bigger pictures in far fewer words. It's a whole story. Some people can write a whole story. They can't write a 5-line poem or piece of prose. And I can, like going back to my time when I was in school, I don't want to write 58,000 pages when I can get it in 5 lines. It's the same thing. If you want to develop it, yes, you develop it.
Just like the quatrains of Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam.
Yeah.
Tells you a lot in 4 lines. It's a whole life. It's a whole life. It's a whole universe in there. It's every suffering and loving, and it's all in.
I read it. I remember reading it years ago. I bought a lovely old copy of it, beautifully illustrated.
Yeah, was that by Fitzgerald or Goyam? Probably Fitzgerald is the most common.
I think so. It's only small. The book's only small as well. It's not very big.
Yeah. What about he wrote more. But they translated about 150 quatrains. Beautiful. I mean, it's but you are putting it in a format that nobody does. That's the beauty of it.
You mean I got to 64 and I'm unique?
The style. Yeah. It's the style.
I thank you.
Pleasure.
I really do.
It's the truth, and I had an impulse to write you immediately after I saw your YouTube recitations, and I went from one to another and to another and to another. You never get tired of it. It's so rejoicing.
I better put some more up before you get through them all. Then
have to.
My daughter did tell me, because I tend to put accents in as well. If I hear an Irish somebody speaking, I'll do an Irish. I wrote a piece called "I'm Not a Rasta Man," and I meant it as a compliment, and I did it in a Jamaican patois accent. But of course, in this modern day of woke and all this stuff, she said, "Dad, take it down." I said, "Why?" She says, "Because you can't talk like that." And I suddenly thought, oh, is this what the generations come to? So I did it in an English style. It still works. She said, "That's better." I went, oh, well, there we go.
Well, let me see if I could share a screen here so I could tell you. Let me show people something. I'd like to share this.
Okay.
Here we go. Does it show?
So you can tell it was winter, yeah. Because my lovely Armani jumper. I'm on Instagram as well as the Lee Benson. How about that?
Oh yes, absolutely. So this is actually what I looked at. Can you see it? I don't know if you can see it because I'm in it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So okay. So it's got a screen on it. Yeah. So all this. I mean, I went through most of it. In fact, where is it? Chameleon. I'm no restaurant. I was just going through it, and I had to stop to go to your page actually, which is right here in Wikipedia.
Looks pretty good.
And it looks pretty good, yes. And it would be filled much more now. And then I went through novels, poetry, children books, and all that, and it is amazing. And then back to poetry, because this is what got me so excited and yeah, that is something. See, the sharing is off, right? Well,
yeah, about you again.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you. I mean, this interview was something else. It was very different, and I thank you so much for being part of it.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I've really enjoyed it.
You're an amazing gentleman, magnificent character, amazing talent. I'd like to hear more about your music and poetry and prose. And I hope to see you again very, very soon. And I thank you for everything and for being with us today. And I wish you the best with your career, and we'll be in touch, absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We have to have it again. We have to have another session again, because it's so much.
I can think of a few more lives, Chris. I've got a few more tales. It's been a pleasure to be on here, and I hope your audience have enjoyed it. And if they want to email me via you, ask me some creative questions, I'll always reply. If they want to buy books and want them signed, I can always send out an autograph or whatever. We'll leave all the links everywhere. I'm looking forward to the next one. Very, very exciting. Lovely time with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You, and to those watching from all over the world, until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.